In our previous video, we showed how to create hourly rate based estimates using one team member in a team of 3, which gave you a discount on the hourly rate when you used a team of 3. These estimated amounts are manually put in by your salesperson as opposed to being automatically calculated by the estimator. Let's look at doing hourly rate based, where the estimator figures out the price for you, at least getting you in the ballpark. Let's go ahead and add a new parent service. We're going to call this service hourly rate automated estimation. Go ahead and create that. We're going to put in our base hourly rate of $80. And then here we will put in our short description. All items here are automatically. There we go. Go ahead and click out of there. We'll click close. And let's go ahead and add our first automated service. Select automated there as its parent, and we will call this space planning. With the space planning, we're going to leave all the default options turned on. If you don't see your hourly rate appear here, you can turn off the match parent hourly service and turn it back on, and it'll pick up the hourly rate from your parent service. So here we have 80. If we put in the average number of hours here, let's say we spend an average of 32 hours on the average size home that we're moving. Oh, I'm sorry, this is space planning. Nobody spends that much time. 4 hours. 4 hours doing space planning on an average size of a home they are moving into of 1,200 square feet. There we go. That's more normal. I was putting in hours thinking it was pack and sort, but okay. So we are doing space planning, and we're going to bill them $80 an hour, which is the rate that we got from our parent. And we know we spend an average, if we're looking across all of our history, the average number of hours we spend doing space planning, where we go, we measure, we make the floor plan, all of that, is about 4 hours. And then we also know by looking over our history over the last couple years or so that we are moving people into a apartment that's about 1,200 square feet in size. This could be more, this could be less. The main takeaway here is that we need to make sure that anytime this is a destination service, they all use the same average square footage. So if you're always, any of your destination services are always going to say 1,200 square feet. Now, just in case we get into a situation where the square footage is less than our average, we want to make sure that we never fall below a certain billable amount. So if we put in here, we want to say the minimum for us to show up and do this service is $250. This way, if the square footage that they're moving into is so low that the amount would be below $250, it will use the $250 amount instead. We'll scroll down here and we will check the box to make it so that it is using the destination values instead of the origination values. We can put in a short description. And we'll go ahead and click close. Let's go ahead and add a second one, child service, for the automated, and we'll call this the pack and sort. Again, leaving all these on by default. I can see that it didn't pick up the hourly rate, so we'll just toggle this on, toggle it back on, or toggle it off, toggle it back on. Now we're picking up our $80 an hour rate. And we'll say the average on this is 32 hours, and the average size of the home that we work in is 2,200 square feet. No need to set a minimum, but we can. So let's just say minimum for us to do this is $500. We're going to use the origination values and the short description. Now, the short description is usually used to put in your scope of work. What are you going to be doing for the client in this regard? So this is a good place for you to put in your normal scope of work definition that you could then edit as you do your estimate so that you don't have to retype everything every time you do this service. I'm just putting this in here for our reference right now. Let's go ahead and click close. All right, so now we have those two services, and let's go ahead and click on these hourly rate ones. We're going to edit these and we're going to make them inactive so that they don't show up on our estimate. There we go. Let's go ahead and go over to our projects. Let's go to test project for Lisa. There we go. All right, so let's add this one in. Hourly automated estimate. Select Lisa as our signer, and now let's go down to our services here. So we can see it's automatically calculated up an amount for us right now based on a square footage of 2,000 on the origination and 2,000 on the destination. Let's go ahead and update these amounts. So we can see that the density here is got options for very high, high, medium, and low. And this applies to the origination and the destination. So to just get us a first baseline, let's say that they are in a 3,000 square foot home and they are moving into a 1,350 square foot apartment. And we can see that it's already adjusted our estimate for us. Let's go down here and we can look at our services, expand on our hourly rate. And we can see that space planning has been updated to be $360 and the pack and sort has been calculated to be $3,490. Now let's go back up here and let's pretend for a moment that when we were going through their home, we saw that the garage is packed to the gills. So we would take the square footage of the garage, let's say it's 250 square feet, and we would subtract it from the 3,000. So 3,000 minus 250 is 2,750. Up here we can see that the total square footage we are working in is 3,000 square feet, but we've now designated that the garage is a high density area and the remainder is 2,000. The remainder is medium. And we can see that it's already adjusted our estimate down here. Now likewise, we could go in and we could say one of the bedrooms was low. Low would be it doesn't even have the typical furniture and things that you would expect to be in there. And then we would lower this yet one more time to match to make sure we're coming out at 3,000 square feet. Now let's pretend for a moment that they said, oh, by the way, there's a basement. And the basement wasn't readily available to us. Whenever we look at anything in a basement, we're automatically going to estimate that high. So let's go ahead and pretend that basement was 1,000 square feet. So we'll just up that to 1,250 high. And now we're accounting for everything that we need to do in the basement as well. I would count a basement, crawl space, and attic as high out the door because you have limited access to it. Anything that is up there or down there might have not been assembled and moved down there, rather taken down there in a box and then assembled down there. So you're going to have to figure all that out. What we've seen is that those things should be classified as high. The only time we move into a very high density is whenever you look at a room and there is just a path into that room, maybe to the bed. The rest of it is just piles and piles of items that are going to need to be sorted out and dispersed. So there we go. We can see that it's been calculating up the total for us, and then we would go down here, click on Customize, and we can edit our short description and put in our scope of work. will lay out your new home with appropriate furniture and account for placement of windows, outlets, and door openings, and so on. You would come up with a much better description, but you get the idea. Click on Update that short description, and then we can come down here to the Pack and Sort and customize its short description the same way. And again, you could put in a default description here that you would normally put in and then just leave parts of it to make it specific. We'll sort and pack the entire home with the exception of the outdoor shed. Let's pretend the daughter is going to do that, which will be done by client daughter. Update that. Okay, so here we can see that we've updated our short description to give us a scope of work, and it's automatically calculated the hours required to do that work and multiplied it by our hourly rate. When we look at the client estimate, depending on how you have your estimate configured to show up, let's go ahead and have this one show the hours. We can see that it is calculated that the pack and sort will take 62.5 hours with a subtotal of $5,000, and the space planning will be 4.5 hours and come up at $360 with our hourly rate at $80. You could elect not to show these details, but this is just to illustrate how it calculates up the hours for us automatically. If you have really good data of what you've done in the past, you could put in your actual averages for the sizes of the homes that you move into and the sizes that you move out of, as well as the average number of hours it takes for you to do that. And then whenever you calculate in that square footage based on the density, you will find that this estimator gets very close to your actual cost. And there you go. Let's next look at automated calculation for out-of-pocket expenses like supplies.